Rolling. All right, let's take a brief look at GPT-3 Playground. So this is maybe 1 year later um, since GPT-3 has been open to beta access, and I have received access to GPT-3 a few weeks back, and I have a few credits to spare, so I'm gonna start actually reviewing GPT-3 because there have been a few changes since the first release. So this is the playground, and as you can see, you have an information here. Here you can experiment with the API. You might want to check out the introduction and examples, and I definitely encourage you to check the examples. You can also try a few example prompts and corresponding them. So we have the presets here. We kindly ask that you refrain from sharing unsafe outputs, which is nice. The current model's training data cuts off in October 2019, so they don't have knowledge of current events. Alright, so we plan to add more continuous training in the future. So do know that everything that GPT-3 knows is up to October 2019. Now, as I said, the default engine is DaVinci here, and you have a few presets. These are my presets, my precious presets. And then we have a couple of examples here. So a preset for chat, Q&A, grammatic, summarize, text to command, English, more examples. And the more examples are here, should be here. So right now, if we count them to 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40 examples. You have study notes, interview questions, restaurant reviews. A lot of these are useless, to be honest. What would I do with an ESRB? Who actually uses maybe ESRB, but recipe generator, turn by turn direction? I mean, you have Google Maps. Great study notes. Okay, that might be useful. Restaurant review creator. Useless in my view. Micro horror story creator. I don't know. Third person converter. Useless. Analogy maker. Useful. JavaScript one line function. I don't know. Mood to color. Useless. JavaScript to Python. Undecided. Airport code extractor. Useless. Science fiction book list maker. Extremely useless. Tweet classifier, spreadsheet generator, TLDR summarization. Very helpful. Factual answering. Very helpful. I would actually like for the team at OpenAI to focus on this kind of stuff. Keywords. I don't know. Useless. Parse unstructured data. Classification, English to French, very useful. Grammar correction, useful because maybe nobody wants to pay for Grammarly. Q&A, summarize for a second grader, very useful. All right, so playground, you just start inputting text and you get a lot of output. Load the presets. Let's do the chat one. So when you load the preset, the engine and the parameters here already change with the ones for the specific preset. So if we click on X, the parameters are going to go to the default, which is response length 64 tokens. And as you can see, if you hover over the text here, it's going to tell you what the response length is, what the temperature is, so controls randomness, stop B, frequency penalty, presence penalty, best stop, best off, stop sequences, and a few more. Content filter, which is really important. Let me just see if I can, or maybe not. I wanted to actually stop synchronizing the Dropbox thing here. So the default engine is DaVinci, which is the most powerful, most capable model in the base series. Then you have Curie, Babbage, Adam. And of course, since the first release of the beta a year ago, they've also added two Instruct models, Instruct Beta DaVinci and Curie Instruct Beta. So, which is better at following instructions than the base series. Alright? Okay, so I usually hover between DaVinci Instruct Beta and DaVinci. So, and of course, depending on your preferences on the type of text you want to generate, so in this case, we're talking about generating text, uh, you would play with the parameters. So let's do one or two presets. So DaVinci, we have the chat preset. It automatically set the response length to 150 tokens, temperature to 0.9. So this is actually going to make the model less deterministic and less repetitive, of course. They put top P to 1 and frequency penalty to 0, presence penalty to 0.6. I usually like to put frequency penalty to above 0.6 because this is actually going to make the model. Sometimes, if you have experience with the models, if you have experience with generating a lot of output, you can notice that the model becomes very repetitive. So frequency penalty was set to 0, but since we are talking about short completions here, it's going to be less likely that it is going to be repetitive. So we'll just leave it to 0. Then you have presence penalty, whether they appear in the text so far. Okay, so this actually increases the likelihood for the model to talk about new topics. Alright, so the chat. The following is a conversation with an AI assistant. This assistant is helpful, creative, clever, very friendly. What if we change this to helpful, creative, clever? Let's not say very friendly, let's say very factual. Hello, how are you? I am created by OpenAI. How can I help you? Let's see what's currently doing in terms of math. What's the square root of pi? And then we hit enter or we hit submit. If we hit submit, I do not know, I'm sorry, the answer is missing from my database. What if we try that one more time? 15. So square root of pi. It's 1.77, so it's not 15. So we would have been better off with the first answer. What if we regenerated? Approximately 1.88. Now it's 1.77. Again, 37. The square root of pi is 3.141. So, and it took like how many completions? It took like 5 or 6 attempts to actually get 177, 24519, 24538. 245. So it's accurate up to here, which is okay. Because we know that GPT-3 isn't too good with math. What if we, instead of using DaVinci, what if we use Instruct Beta and regenerate this? Again, so wrong. This is better because you get more answers, like not a question I can answer, which is better than a wrong answer. 3, the square root of pi 3.14. Anyways, so this was the chat, but the chat, so going back to DaVinci, the chat is, so I said it's very factual. Let's say who was the first person stepping on the moon, and then we hit submit. Neil Armstrong. When was Albert Einstein born? So another factual one. 14 March 1879. So Albert Einstein, date of birth March 14, 1879. Okay, so that's actually accurate. Alright, so very factual. This is how you actually nudge the model into trying to come up with completions that you want. So if I would say very fantasizing, we'll probably get a different output. And this was actually the chat feature. Then we have the Q&A, grammatic standard English, summarize, text to command, classification, English to French, and a couple of other examples that I've shown you here. So if we look into the examples, you have all of these, but if we go back to the playground, we just, so everything was removed. We just have the open press, we have everything back to the defaults. And then, for example, if I want to create something very creative, I would leave the temperature higher, which is often the norm. I will leave the top P to 1, so either modify the temperature or the top P, not both of them. I would put the frequency penalty to, let's say, 0.7, regardless of, I usually set a higher frequency penalty, regardless of the type of completion that I'm doing. I leave the presence penalty as it is, bast off as it is, stop sequences, everything as it is, unless I want to have some sort of a back and forth interaction between the users, between user input and the engine. So let's actually, we can set the response length to 150, maybe to, I don't think you can put it that high, but let's say you could put it to 500 if you want to use a short out. I could say use DaVinci for poem creation. So a poem about AI and the future of humanity. And then response length, let's put it to 300, tokens, temperature 0.8, frequency penalty 0.7. Let's see what we get with the DaVinci. So there's a lot in here, and there's a lot of space. I don't know why it regenerates a lot of space. But let's say if we use instruct beta, and in my opinion, the instruct models are actually tending towards shorter generations. So less lengthy generations. As you can see, if we do that one more time, this is actually longer than usual for the instruct beta. Again, another lengthier one. So it's interesting. I wonder why. Anyways, this is GPT-3 1 year later. Not much has changed in terms of your user experience. Of course, you can save the preset if you like it. Give it a name. So for example, poem. And then you give it a description if you want. But of course, in terms of the basic barebone playground, not much has changed, like apparently, but they've been working, as far as I understand, they've been working a lot at the GPT-3, and hopefully they're gonna come up with something better that's actually more current and not October. This is so 2019. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to. There have been a lot of applications that have been developed based on GPT-3. You can check them out at GPT Crush and also GPT-3 demo, two sites. We're actually gonna look into these in a future video, but for now, so we have a couple of popular ones. GPT-3 Crush. I know this one, Alter AI. You have a mainboard and an Omni. We'll be looking into this maybe later at a future point. So yeah, that's it. GPT-3 1 year later.